Srila Prabhupada. Welcome everyone to Prabhupada book reading session. Mama Jnana Timirandasya Jnananimishanakkaya Chakshurunmilitangeya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Kadamanyam Dadati Sarpadantikam Vande Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Param Vaishnava Shilupam Sagrajatam Sahalarabhutam Tam Sachivutam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shridha Krishna Padan Samalavadita Shri Vishwakamatam Shri Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशकारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेमा प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौतुषे नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासानु गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम हरे हरे. Let's continue from where we stopped in the last class. March 22, the senior devotees in Mayapur felt Srila Prabhupada was too ill to travel and that he should remain there and recuperate. Besides, reports from Bombay were conflicting. Surabhi Swami, knowing that Prabhupada's quarters were not finished, wanted more time, so he wired Prabhupada, requesting him not to come. But Giriraj and others had been arranging a lecture program for Srila Prabhupada at a pandal in Azad Maidan in Bombay, and Giriraj had written inviting Prabhupada. Prabhupada considered the opportunities for preaching and decided to go. He had his secretary send a telegram from Mayapur to Bombay. Prabhupada arriving Tuesday at 10:50, have room ready in whatever condition. But on Prabhupada's arrival in Bombay, he was so weak that he could not walk down the steep stairs from the airplane. An airline personnel arranged for him to be lowered to the ground by hydraulic lift. Once he was on the ground, several devotees assisted him in walking, although he appeared frail. He smiled brightly when he saw the devotees waiting for him at the airport. Hare Krishna land was intense with activity as some 200 workers applied their various skills in constructing the temple hotel complex. Under the direction of Survi Swami and his assistants, a dozen men were cutting red stone slabs to cover the concrete superstructure of the hotel. Almost 15 marble workers were chipping away with hammers, making decorative columns and arches in the temple, and masons and interior finishers were working on the theater building. Much of the work was completed, yet everything still appeared bare like bones without flesh. The hotel had no windows or doors, and of course, no furniture or curtains, and the temple was mostly an unfinished structure. The work crews were moving quickly, concentrating especially on Srila Prabhupada's quarters on the top floor of one of the hotel towers. As Srila Prabhupada entered his beautiful quarters at Hare Krishna land, he remarked that no one could outdo Surabhi Swami. I haven't such place anywhere else in the world. Such place to live anywhere else in the world, he said. Los Angeles and New York are big cities, and London, Paris, but nobody can present such a luxurious royal palace. Seeing now how the one large room was arranged to facilitate his different activities, Prabhupada said, "This is like my room at the Radha Damodar temple. In one corner I am writing, in another corner I am sitting, in another corner I am taking prasadam." The comparison was odd since the Radha Damodar place was a tiny cell. Yet Srila Prabhupada saw them as related, the beginning in Vrindavan and the apex in Mumbai or Bombay. In either place, he was the same person, humbly taking a little prasadam, writing his books, and ambitiously planning for spreading Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada discussed with several of his disciples and Dr. Sharma about his daily routine in Bombay. He said he would come down for a darshan of the deity and would lecture once a week on Sunday. On special occasions, he would see a visitor in his quarters, but rarely. Generally, he said, people come to visit and say, how are you? How are you feeling? And it takes a half hour even. So what is the use of wasting time like that? How are you? Everyone knows that I'm not feeling well. So they can come to the temple room in the morning, said Kumar Krishna Goswami. Yes, said Prabhupada. If they actually want to see me, I'm going there. They can see me for a half hour. And for talking, there's no need of talking. How are you? How are you feeling? This is not talking. Instead, said Gargamuni Swami, they can buy some of your books downstairs. Yes, said Prabhupada, nodding approvingly. This is a waste of time. I want to stop this to answer all these things. How are you? By saving his time and energy, he said he could work on his book writing. Devotees assured him that everyone would appreciate this schedule and would be happy that he was working on the 10th canto. I think I shall be able to work from today, Prabhupada declared. Now I've got very nice place, full freedom, so there'll be no difficulty. That Prabhupada would not take any morning walks went without saying. Everyone closely involved with Srila Prabhupada had come to accept a new way of living, with no morning walks and very few classes. Someone suggested that Prabhupada might like to walk on the roof, but even that seemed to be too difficult. Certain managerial affairs Prabhupada would try to avoid, although often to no avail, such as concerning the delays in completing the construction work at Bombay. He could hear the sounds of the work and sometimes it was noisy, but it was the slowness that perturbed him. Sometimes he would sit silently for hours and then remark to his servant or secretary that he was very upset by the delays. You are sincere workers, Prabhupada told the devotees in charge, but no intelligence. I can see that this construction work is not going on. Am I to close my eyes? I can do that, but I am a sensible man. How can I close my eyes? They are all giving their excuses. Srila Prabhupada had no regular doctor. From time to time, a Kaviraj might show up to give a diagnosis and some medicine, but Prabhupada would not take it very seriously. He considered that these Kavirajas very qualified, and if the medicine tested he didn't consider these Kavirajs very qualified. And if the medicine tasted bitter or produced any bad effect, he would stop taking it. Everything was up to Krishna, and a doctor could not change that. Prabhupada mentioned the relative merits of Ayurvedic and homeopathic medicines, but like any other mundane topic, medicine was something he showed little interest in. The days went by peacefully with mild, pleasant breezes, always passing through Prabhupada's room. His intelligence was always sharp and alert, and yet his health did not improve. Bhavananda Goswami had come from Mayapur and had been intimately serving Srila Prabhupada, but he had to return to Bengal for important preaching duties. Srila Prabhupada said there was no doubt that Bhavanand was the best at giving massage and taking personal care of his spiritual master, but the personal servant's duties were not as important as preaching. Srila Prabhupada would repeatedly mention that the iskcon leaders should prepare to carry on without his direct management on one day, he was recalling some of the incidents of his first year in New York City. Then suddenly he began speaking of the future. Don't spoil it, he said. Now it is up to you, my senior man. I can part away from you. My health is not good. I'm an old man. It is not surprising. Now you GBC, young boys, you are American expert. You have all intelligence, so you don't spoil it. Let the movement go forward more. You have a lot of nice places. Don't be anxious for. And even if I go, where is the harm? I have given my ideas and direction in my books. Just you have to see it. I think I have done my part. Is it not? Do you think so or not? Yes, you have done everything. Still, you want the whole Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada. That will be done, said Prabhupada. Even if it is not full, there is no loss. You are competent. You can take charge. Now you can take charge of all the money. Let me remain free from management. My only request is don't spoil it. I have sometimes chastised so that it may not be spoiled. Prabhupada said that for him to see things were going on nicely under his ISKCON leaders would make him happy. And I'll go on writing books. That will be all right. He said there was no need for him to eat anymore since he was not physically active. There was no purpose in taking a lunch of chapatis and rice. Okay, so let's continue. Neha Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Giriraj expressed that it was the pleasure of Prabhupada's devotees to see him eat and relish prasadam. But Srila Prabhupada disregarded this and said the brain could be kept active just by a little fruit or even milk. These moods, Prabhupada speaking of retirement and fasting, even hinting of passing away, were only occasional moods. They were very real, practical, and sober, but he would soon turn to other things, promising his continual involvement with his disciples, his movement, and the world. After a brief spell of such talking, he would again be commenting fiercely on the follies of the scientists and politicians. Srila Prabhupada occasionally talked of traveling to a place better for his health. It was May and Bombay was hot. Soon the monsoons would come. He had considered going to Kashmir because the air and water were reputedly good for health. But no suitable accommodations could be found there, and the weather was too cool. Prabhuji, can you please scroll? Then one day he received a visit from Shriman Narayan, the former governor of Gujarat. You should take care of your health, said Shriman Narayan. I hope you get better. Oh, this is just an old machine, Prabhupada laughed. The more you cure it, the more it gets worse. But my work never stops. That keeps going on. That keeps on going. My main work is to write these books, and that is going on. Several other Indian guests were present, and they at once began recommending good places for health: Srinagar, Kashmir, Dehradun, Mussoorie, Simla, Haridwar. Yes, the water in Haridwar is good, said Shriman Narayan, but better than that would be in Rishikesh, where the Ganges flows. Whatever places are on the bank of the Ganges, the water will be very good. Let us arrange for that. From that moment, going to Rishikesh became a definite plan, and Prabhupada prepared to leave Bombay within a week. The first week in Rishikesh was idyllic, heavenly, with perfect weather and hopes of Prabhupada eating and recovering. But on the eighth night, a violent storm hit, and with the storm came a drastic turn in Prabhupada's health. He said the end was near, and he asked to go immediately to Vrindavan in case Krishna wanted him to depart from the world very soon. The devotees in Rishikesh had been in high spirits, and so had Srila Prabhupada. While crossing the Ganges by boat, Prabhupada had requested drinking water to be fetched from the center of the river. He had liked the lodge provided by his host, and he had even gone into the kitchen to show his disciples how to cook. Word had spread through the pilgrimage tourist town that A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami was present, and Prabhupada had agreed to hold a darshan from 5 to 6 p.m. daily. The room had always been crowded at that hour with 40 to 50 people, including Western hippies and seekers, as well as Indians on pilgrimage and vacation. Although Srila Prabhupada's voice had been extremely faint, he had spoken with force, stressing Bhagavad Gita as it is. When an American hippie had questioned him skeptically, Prabhupada had replied, You cannot understand because you are crazy. And when a lady had put forward materialistic welfare work as the highest good, Prabhupada had replied, Your compassion is as valuable as blowing on a boil to heal it. Only a few disciples were with Prabhupada in Rishikesh, and they had deemed it was a wonderful treat. Not only had Prabhupada directed the cooking, but he had told stories while cooking. He had said that only a lazy man couldn't cook. And then he told a Bengali story, the story of a lazy man, to illustrate. There was a king who decided that all lazy men in his kingdom could come to the charity house and be fed. So many men came, all claiming, I am a lazy man. The king then told his minister to set fire to the charity house, and all but two men ran out of the burning building. One of the two men said, My back is becoming very hot from the fire. And the other advised, Just turn over to the other side. The king then said, These are actually lazy men. Feed them.
Thank you, Madhuri.
Hare
Usha Mustaji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. But on the evening of May 15, Srila Prabhupada could neither sleep nor work at his dictation. The storm at Hyperbinja of the monsoon season knocked out all electric power in Rishikesh. Since the fans were not running and the windows shutters had to be closed because of the wind, the room became very hot. At 5 in the morning, Srila Prabhupada called the Tamsala Krishna Goswami and said that he was feeling weak. Tamala Krishna massaged Prabhupada for an hour. Even at dawn, the wind did not let up and sand was blowing. The storm and power failure continued the next night. Tamala Krishna had asked Prabhupada about the swelling in his hands and feet, and Prabhupada replied, annoyed, why are you bothering? It is my body and I am not disturbed. But then he said, from the material point of view, it is not good. Please consider how everything may be turned over to the GBC, so that in my absence everything will go on. You may make a will and I will sign it. He was walking definitely about things, and before he had only alluded to. Suddenly at 1:30 a.m. Prabhupada rang his bell and Tamala Krishna and Kiro Kirogora Gopinath responded. From beneath his mosquito net, he said, as I was telling you, the symptoms are not good. I want to leave immediately for Vrindavan. If it was time for him to pass away, he said, then let it be in Vrindavan. Since he wanted to leave immediately and devotees stayed up all night, packing and preparing to leave. Train reservations were not available. However, so they decided to go by car. As they turned off the Delhi-Agra road, Srila Prabhupada saw for the first time the stonemaker, Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg. They soon met up with Gunnar, Gunnar Nava, who was waiting on a motorcycle and who joyfully sped ahead to tell the devotees at the Krishna Balram Mandir that Srila Prabhupada was here. At the gate of the temple, a big Kirtana party, including all the Gurukula children, was gathered to greet Prabhupada with chanting and dancing. 4 devotees carried Prabhupada in a palanquin to the temple hall, where he offered his respects to the two lords, Krishna and Balram. After the Aarti, Prabhuji, kindly scroll up. After the Aarti ceremony honoring Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada spoke briefly to the assembled devotees. If death takes place, he said, let it take place here. Seeing his demeanor and hearing him speak his unexpected words, some of the devotees in the room began to cry. So he continued, there is nothing to be said new. Whatever I have to say, I have spoken in my books. Now, try to understand it and continue your endeavors. Whether I am present or not, it doesn't matter. As Krishna is living eternally, similarly the living beings also lives eternally. But Kirtir Yasasa Jivati, one who has done service to the Lord lives forever. So you have been taught to serve Krishna. So with Krishna, our life is eternal. The temporary disappearance of this body, it doesn't matter. The body is meant for disappearance. So live forever by serving Krishna. After one day in Vrindavana, Srila Prabhupada wrote,
Thank you, Mataji. Shri
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. After one day in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada wrote, I was staying in Rishikesh hoping to improve my health, but instead I have become a little weaker. Now I have come back to my home, Vrindavan. If anything should go wrong, at least I'll be here in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada called for Tamal Krishna Goswami. There are two things, he said, trying to survive and to prepare for death. It is better to plan for the worst. Arrange to always have 3 or 4 men with me. Have kirtan and read Bhagavatam all the time. Now I am trying to take little food. Parikshit Maharaj would not even take water. Seeing Srila Prabhupada's mood, Tamal Krishna mentioned the need for a will and Prabhupada agreed. The writing of the will would not be done with the attitude that the end had come, but in the spirit of preparing for the worst. It also meant finishing things so they would not have to be done at the last minute. Prabhupada was concerned that his movement continue securely with all iskcon properties in the possession of his disciples within the institution and all his instructions made clear for the future. These matters should be dispatched now in a will, and the GBC men should gather in Vrindavan to make these last arrangements and to be with him. Tamal Krishna wanted to double check to see that Prabhupada actually wanted all the GBC men from all over the world to come. It would be costly and demanding, so he wanted to be sure that Prabhupada really wanted it. When Srila Prabhupada assured him that he did, Tamal Krishna, who saw his service as responding to whatever Srila Prabhupada desired, also spoke in favor of the idea. Because they love you, said Tamal Krishna. I'm sure they will all want to come and be with you. Your love for me, said Srila Prabhupada, will be shown by how much you cooperate to keep this institution together after I am gone. The word was sent to all GBC secretaries worldwide. Srila Prabhupada might depart very soon, and he wanted them to be with him in Vrindavan. As soon as possible, the GBC men left their duties and came to him. The GBC men met and decided that aside from Prabhupada's will, which would secure the ISKCON properties, and aside from making all the bank accounts within ISKCON secure, there were also a few questions which they should put before Prabhupada before it was too late. These questions, such as how future disciples would be initiated, would have to be answered. Otherwise, they should become a source of speculation and havoc after Srila Prabhupada's departure. A selected committee from the GBC came before Srila Prabhupada as he sat up in bed in the main room downstairs. Satsvarupa Das Goswami was to be the spokesman, but he felt shy and uneasy. To come directly before Srila Prabhupada and ask about what should be done after his passing away might seem impertinent, but it was necessary. Srila Prabhupada himself had requested that the GBC come to Vrindavan to take care of exactly this kind of business. Srila Prabhupada, said Satsvarup, we were all asked by the rest of the GBC to come to ask some questions. These are the members of the original GBC as you first made it out. Our first question is about the GBC members. We want to know how long should they remain in office. Srila Prabhupada spoke slowly and deeply. They should remain for good. Selected men are chosen so that they cannot be changed. Rather, if some competent men are found, they should be added. Satsvarup asked what to do if a GBC member gave up his post, and Prabhupada said that the GBC body should elect another man. Our next question, Satsvarup proceeded, concerns initiation in the future, particularly at the time when you are no longer with us. We want to know how a first and second initiation should be conducted. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada, I shall recommend some of you. What he had already described many times throughout his Bhaktivedanta purports was now being implemented. His disciples would become gurus and accept disciples of their own. Satsvarup asked next about the BBT. At present, he said, no translation works are to be published without your seeing and approving them. So the question is there any system for publishing works in the future, works that you may not see? That we have to examine expertly, Prabhupada replied. He accepted the principle that future works could be translated from Sanskrit, but he cautioned, but amongst my disciples, I don't think there are many who can translate properly. Srila Prabhupada went on to describe the special qualifications for translating Sanskrit Vaishnava literature. It would take a realized soul, he said. Otherwise, simply by imitating A, B, C, D, it will not help. My purports are liked by people because it is presented as practical experience. It cannot be done unless one is realized. Srila Prabhupada had already given the outline for his will to Tamal Krishna Goswami. The GBC would be the ultimate governing authority in ISKCON. 3 trustees would be assigned to each ISKCON property. The GBC was to make a thorough draft and make the will legal. For Srila Prabhupada, a will meant protection for his ISKCON. As Srila Prabhupada had explained, a devotee has not a tinge of self-interest. Everything is for Krishna. But in his purity, he must not be knave. ISKCON was a large, growing organization of properties and monies intended 100% for use in the devotional service of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada called on the GBC to be vigilant. At times like this, it became especially clear that the day was approaching when Prabhupada's children would have to grow up and lead, manage, protect, and expand his society on their own. These might well be their last chances to learn directly from him and to be close with him for chanting the holy name and dedicating themselves utterly to carrying out his desires for iskcon.
Thank you,
A few,
Prabhu.
thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. A few days later, the final version of the Declaration of Will was notarized in the presence of a lawyer. The GBC men, each of whom had pressing leadership and administrative duties within their respective zones, began to feel the need to return to their posts. When some of them expressed their plans to return to their areas of work, Prabhupada gave his permission. They had been together for a week, and now one by one they began to disperse. Within another week, most of them had left Vrindavana. Srila Prabhupada and his small staff remained, and the constant chanting continues, performed by the devotees of the Krishna Balram temple. As June came in Vrindavana, the weather remained very hot. The sky, which had been a clear blue, turned hazy as the first moisture arrived. Between noon and 4 p.m., the ground was too hot for bare feet, and the residents of Vrindavan would stay home, confining most of their activity to either morning or the late afternoon and evening. Even eating was excluded from the midday hours, since the heat killed the appetite. The Yamuna was shallow and hot, giving little relief. The cows were gone from lack of grass and feed, and occasional hot searing winds raised dust clouds. Flies and mosquitoes died in the air. One of the few pleasant features of summer was the fragrance of bale flowers that climbed along the walls around Prabhupada's garden, somehow thriving in the dry heat. In the first days of June, Srila Prabhupada experienced some hope of recovery. He asked to resume morning rides, and then, being brought down to the car, he said, "Soon I will get down and walk myself." His old friend from Ahmedabad, Dr. Ghosh, came and diagnosed his disease as anxiety for the devotees' consciousness movement. Srila Prabhupada agreed, but he didn't follow the doctor's orders, since they included having his blood pressure checked regularly and taking various medicines and special treatments. But by receiving massages from his servants, he felt he was improving. At this rate, he said, he would be all right after a month and a half, but he stressed, "I'm not leaving Vrindavan until I am well." July brought the rainy season to Vrindavan. Clouds began building from beginning of the month, and by mid-July it would be raining daily. The perfumed odor of the kadamba flower was heavy in the air, and after the rain, the neem blossoms would give off their onion-like aroma. The peacocks, with their full feathered tails, became ecstatic, dancing, cooing, and calling. Sometimes a sudden rainstorm would come even while Srila Prabhupada was sitting on his bed or at his dictating desk in an unsheltered part of the veranda, and his servants would rush out to move him inside as quickly as possible. Sometimes, when rain prevented his using the garden, he would recline instead on the little porch overlooking the garden. But at least 120-degree heat was broken, and the days became more bearable. Prabhupada quietly rested and continued his day's routine, waiting to see what Krishna desired. He would often wake about 6 a.m., open his eyes to see Tamal Krishna at his bedside. He would then extend his hands, indicated he wanted to sit up in bed. Tamal Krishna or another servant would then lightly stroke Srila Prabhupada's back while Srila Prabhupada spoke his mind. Very few devotees were visiting Vrindavan, and guests were rarely allowed to see Prabhupada. His health was not improving, nor did it seem to be at a crisis point as it had been in May. But because he was hardly eating anything, he was not building his strength. His main treatment consisted of hearing Kirtan, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. July was a good month for Srila Prabhupada's work on Srimad Bhagavatam. He continued dictating very early in the morning and in the afternoon, completing chapters 8 and 9 of the 10th canto. It was his great pleasure to do so. Working on Srimad Bhagavatam, He was completely transcendental to his physical condition, despite the accompanying heart palpitations and despite his faint voice and general weakness. Even to sit was difficult, but yet once he began working, nothing would stop him. Speaking into the hand microphone of his dictating machine, oblivious to his bodily condition, Prabhupada described patiently and methodically how Nand Maharaj's family priest Gargamuni performed the name-giving ceremony for baby Krishna. In his purpose, Srila Prabhupada often spoke from his personal experiences and realization. Sometimes sitting in the pre-dawn open air on the second floor veranda, and sometimes in the humid heat of bright afternoon, Srila Prabhupada worked, describing the limitless Vedic knowledge, just as his predecessors, the Goswamis and Krishnadas Kaviraj, had done when worshipping Krishna and Lord Chaitanya while living in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada, however, was the first great acharya to make Krishna conscious literature available to persons of all countries throughout the world, regardless of birth status or previous character. Even as he composed the latest chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, thousands of young men and women were working on his behalf to preach the Vedic message to the world. His disciples were, in fact, keenly aware of how Srila Prabhupada was producing the 10th canto purports in Vrindavan, and they prayed to Lord Krishna that he be allowed to continue for many years so that he could complete the entire Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you, Mataji.
Krishna
Gaurav
Prabhuji.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada was concerned that what he wrote be published and distributed. It was his service to his Guru Maharaj, and he received great satisfaction in hearing that book distribution was still expanding all over the world. Harikesh Swami, the GVC of Northern and Eastern Europe, reported that he was printing a very large quantity of books in 13 languages. After hearing only the beginning of this report, Srila Prabhupada exclaimed, "All the blessings of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj on you. You are the most important grandson of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Go on doing like this." In a similar mood, Srila Prabhupada pushed his GBC secretary for India, Gopal Krishna, to produce Hindi books faster and in greater quantities. Whenever Gopal Krishna came to visit Srila Prabhupada without a new publication, Prabhupada would reprimand him for his slowness. Gopal Krishna therefore began a policy of visiting Prabhupada only when he had a new book present. In mid-July, when Gopal Krishna brought a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam first canto part 2 in Hindi, Srila Prabhupada accepted it happily and said, "Twice now, unless he brings some book, he won't come. And because every time I criticize him, where is the book? Where is the book?" Toward the end of July, Prabhupada's health seemed to be worsening again, and again he mentioned that the end might come at any moment. Tamal Krishna had been acting as Srila Prabhupada's personal secretary for 6 continuous months, and he had become Prabhupada's eyes and ears and his spokesman, especially in dealing with iskcon management. And he had also become a personal confidant, assisting Srila Prabhupada in his transient moods. As a sincere servant, he now began suggesting a different remedy. Srila Prabhupada had recently been feeling and expressing intense devotion towards his disciples in their preaching. Taking this as a cue, Tamal Krishna suggested that if Prabhupada could travel to the West and be with his disciples there, he would find new life. "But if I die," Srila Prabhupada said, "I want to do so in Vrindavan." Tamal Krishna replied that Srila Prabhupada should not think of dying. If he would go on a tour of the West, see the devotees there, take prasadam made from food grown on the iskcon farms, then certainly he would respond to such devotion and regain his appetite and strength. Tamal Krishna gave encouragement. When you get there with so many devotees who are giving their lives for spreading Krishna consciousness and assisting you, it will really be enthusing. And you, oh, could you please scroll up the page? And you won't have to speak so much. It's your presence. You're seeing the devotees and they're seeing you. So in that sense, it won't be exhausting. It's a good climate now too. August in London. It's a very good time. Prabhupada turned to Upendra and said, "His words are making me feel different. Just hearing, I become enthusiastic." Sri Prabhupada said to Tamal Krishna, "By going west, I know you will recover." Prabhu, could you kindly scroll up?
Thank you, Prabhu. May Krishna fulfill your words, said Srila Prabhupada. July of 1977 had begun a special time for pious Hindus, and the people of Vrindavan spent extra time in reading scriptures and visiting holy places. So by the end of July, when the trees and bushes were freshening with green leaves, pilgrims came in crowds to Vrindavan and to Krishna Balram Mandir, despite the mud and the rain. Many of the people were in jubilant mood, relieved from the oppressive heat and anticipating Jhulan Yatra, the swing festival of Radha Krishna. Jhulan Yatra was Vrindavan's biggest festival and would occur in the mid-August this year. The local newspaper were giving reports on Srila Prabhupada's health, and a genuine concern for his well-being prevailed throughout Vrindavan and surrounding villages. Therefore, because of the festival season as well as out of concern for Srila Prabhupada, many people were coming to the Krishna Balram Mandir. Those who came around 9 a.m. got to see Srila Prabhupada when he went for his morning darshan of the deities.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Pushpa Kannavadan.
Pranam Guruji. Srila Prabhupada still had no appetite and had security eating during the past 6 weeks. He was no longer regular in his times for sleeping, taking massage, or sitting up or translating. Feeling himself to be at a critical period, he had given permission for devotees all over iskcon to recite a simple prayer. My dear Lord Krishna, if you desire, please cure Srila Prabhupada. He would regularly go before the deities each morning, wearing his dark sunglasses, sitting erect in the rocking chair. He would hold his palms together in the gesture of prayer, while two men, one in front and one behind, carefully carrying the rocker from Prabhupada's room into Temple's room. They would set the chair down first before the deities of Gaura Niti, then before Krishna Balarama, and then Radha Shama Sundara. Then they would carry him to central spot in the courtyard under the Tamala tree and set his chair down on the black and white checkered marble floor. Srila Prabhupada would sit facing Krishna and Balarama, and the devotees would sit down around him and begin a kirtan. As the kirtan began, two Gurukul boys would rise and come in front of him, where they would begin dancing up arms, upraise their cotton chadar, swinging back and forth. Prabhupada would usually not speak or smile, but after a few minutes, he would give his garland to a devotee who would place them around the neck of the dancer. Soon, two other young boys would come forward, and first boy would garland them with garland they had received from Srila Prabhupada and sit down. After half an hour, the dancing and singing continued. Guests to the temple would gather, many of them offering money at Prabhupada's feet, which rested on an embroidered silk cushion. Srila Prabhupada was gaining resolve to go to the West if I can work a little more. He said, our society would be very strong. I want to see that what I have done is made still stronger. Prabhupada's talk of travel, however, coincided with increasing weakness, he talked less. When Tamala Krishna tried to encourage him to translate, he replied, when I get inspiration, I will take it up. Don't try to force me. I am going through a difficult time and I am now feeling restless. It is not mechanical. The Jhulan Yatra pilgrimage were mostly villagers. Many were from Rajasthan, men and women wearing bright colored clothes, and the women wearing heavy gold and silver bangles, bracelets, which clanked as they walked barefoot on the road. The number of mendicant sadhus also increased. They became a common sight with their asher clay covered bodies marked with brightly colored tilakas. The Yamuna had flooded in many places and was too swift for bathing and swimming. Thousands of visitors came to the Krishna Balarama Mandir, which was now one of the most popular temples in all of the northern India. The evening aarti at Krishna Balarama was so crowded that resident devotees could not attend but could only stand in the back of the courtyard at the edge of the packed, jostling crowd. Some of the Gurukul boys would greet the guests with Hindi back to Godhead magazines, each boy selling 200 or 300 magazines a night. Srila Prabhupada was glad to hear this. A report came from Abhirama in Calcutta that Srila Prabhupada's passport had finally been secured and the American consulate in Calcutta would help in getting the green card for US. Tamala Krishna ran upstairs and told Prabhupada, there is a very good news. Srila Prabhupada was lying in the bed, but when he heard the news, he began to slowly clap his hands, saying, give me good news, give me alive, keep me alive. He began to think ahead to London. The Radha Krishna deity, they are so nice. He said, Radha, Londona Visarva, a innocent boy. His Srila Prabhupada thought of Bhakti Vedanta Menor, that lawn before my room is magnificent. He said, I think a good time is coming. When Prabhupada arrived in London, his disciples, they were shocked. They had never imagined that he would be so thin or that anyone could travel in such condition. For the devotees who had been at the airport to meet him, it had been a heart-rending experience. Even those who had heard the reports of Prabhupadas in Vrindavan were not emotionally prepared for such a change. Prabhupada was as transcendental as ever, or even more than ever. But the devotees were shocked at first to see so different. Now he appeared like a powerful sage who had been undergoing long asceticity for the benefit of humankind and who had become transcendental to his body. Although living within, Srila Prabhupada visit to London gave the devotee great hope for his recovery. Srila Prabhupada looked forward to traveling to America shortly after Janmashtami, which would fall on September 6, 2 weeks after the date of his arrival in London, in England. I want to live a little longer, he said, to make everything more perfect. Will you do this by enthusiasming the devotees by staying with them? Asked Tamala Krishna. Or is there a specific program? A specific program, said Srila Prabhupada. I want to introduce Varnashrama at our Pennsylvania farm. The biggest problem of life is solved, food. He considered the establishing of the modern Vedic social system on iskcon form communities as an important unfinished part of his life mission. But after Prabhupada had been in London 2 weeks, on the day after his birthday celebration, his health suddenly became more worse. This is the first crisis since his coming to England, and suddenly his plan changed. Instead of going on to the United States as he planned, he also requested that he be taken back to India. He spoke of Bombay. If I live a few days more, he said, let me see the opening of Bombay temple. We could wait here and then fly to Bombay. I would work so hard for it. If I see the opening and then die, it will be very peaceful death. And if I live, then I can come back here. Srila Prabhupada went to Bombay, but his health was not improving. Finally, he announced that he would rather return to Krishna Balarama in Vrindavana and then continue staying in such critical conditions in Bombay. But Srila Prabhupada said, Kamala Krishna, which would happen, what will happen to all devotees here? They have been serving you so sincerely. How will they be able to open the temple without you being here? I mean, all devotees. When they hear you are going to Vrindavan, they will want to come. They want they won't want to stay here. Then they will all want to leave their posts and come with you to Vrindavan. Yes, then let them come. Srila Prabhupada, I said no objection. I have no objection. Tamala Krishna mentioned that if 1,000 devotees might come to be with Prabhupada, that would slow down the iskcon work all over the world. Prabhupada said he had no objection. Tamala Krishna asked whether it was compulsory for GBC members to come. Prabhupada affirmed that it was. The devotees of Krishna
Thank
Balarama,
you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Who else is left? Lalita Prishta Gopi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandanam Pranam Babaji. The devotees at the Krishna Balaram Mandir were upset to see that Prabhupada's condition had deteriorated so much in the 1 month he had been away. His room was as he had left it, except for the addition of a large double bed. He lay down and they closed the curtains and dimmed the lights. For about 5 minutes he lay still with his eyes closed. Now you are home, Sri Prabhupada, said Tamal Krishna. Still Sri Prabhupada lay, quietly not moving. Then slowly he brought his hands to his chest, clasped them together, and said, "Thank you." He seemed relieved. "Now you are in the care of Krishna Balaram," said Tamal Krishna. Sri Prabhupada smiled and nodded slightly. "Yes," he said. Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Panja Ratam, indicating King Kula Shekhara's prayer. "My dear Krishna, please help me die immediately, so that the swell of my mind may be encircled by the stem of your Lord's feet. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, how would it be possible for me to think of you?" Although Sri Prabhupada was in a precocious state, he remained completely fixed in the thought of Krishna in one way or another. Krishna's name, his form, his pastimes, or his devotional service. Prabhupada suggested going to see Krishna and Balaram at 9:30, just as he had done before, but his servants advised that he rest today and began that program tomorrow. "Whatever you desire, I will do," Prabhupada said. Tamal Krishna asked Prabhupada if he wanted the Kaviraja to come. "As you say, Prabhupada, for better or worse, some husband must be there." Sri Prabhupada nodded. "Now manage everything," he said, "and let me think of Krishna Balaram." In response to Sri Prabhupada's call, the 23 GBC members again began gathering in Vrindavan. They arrived heavy-hearted, yet on coming before Sri Prabhupada, they were pleased to give him progress report on their preaching on his behalf. Sri Prabhupada was happy to hear the reports and was as encouraging as ever to his leaders despite his condition. Actually, Prabhupada's calling the GBC men together had been so they could chant for him. Now, more than ever, he wanted the medicine of the holy name, not of doctors. When he heard that his friend Dr. Ghosh was coming to Vrindavan to open a clinic and that he could prescribe treatment, he refused the offer. "These doctors will come and give something to try and save," he said. "I don't want to be saved. Dr. Ghosh may come for the clinic he wanted to develop, but not for my treatment." Tamal Krishna asked if they could at least call in some local Vrindavan doctors. "No," said Prabhupada, "let us take your advice for kirtan only." Tamal Krishna agreed that kirtan was best, because in that way they were pleading for Krishna's help. "Better you don't pray to Krishna to save me," said Sri Prabhupada. "Let me die now." When Harikesh had received the call to come immediately to Vrindavan, he had been told to expect the worst. Immediately, he had contacted his printer, who was in the process of completing several books, and told him that he must have advance copies by the next day. So by the time he got on the plane for India, he had newly printed volumes of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in German, the Krishna trilogy in German, and Yugoslavian Sri Ishupanishad. Harikesh went in and showed Prabhupada the 7 new books. Immediately, Prabhupada took the first volume, Krishna trilogy, and held it up. Looking at the cover painting of Radha and Krishna, Prabhupada began crying and reached out, trying to stroke Harikesh's head. Harikesh reached out and held Prabhupada's hand, thinking himself unworthy of being pet. He was rolling here, typewriting, said Prabhupada, referring to when Harikesh had been his secretary, just before going to preach in Europe. I said, you go. I had 10 servants. You thought that I was degrading you by sending you away? No. Now you understand? Yes, I understand, said Harikesh, sobbing. Here is an intelligent boy, I thought, said Prabhupada. Why should he rot here, typewriting? Prabhupada looked at each book, printing and everything first class. He said, he asked how many had been printed, and Harikesh replied, 120,000 Krishna trilogies, 6,000 Srimad Bhagavatam second cantos, and 10,000 Ishupanishad. Can you distribute that Ishupanishad? Prabhupada asked. The devotees in the room knew that Harikesh had been involved in distributing Sri Prabhupada's books in the communist countries of Eastern Europe at great personal risk. This knowledge heightened the already supercharged emotional intensity of the moment. Harikesh assured Prabhupada that they could definitely distribute the book in Yugoslavia, then print more, said Prabhupada. They continued discussing book production. Books were indeed Srila Prabhupada's life and soul. From Harikesh's entering with these new books, Prabhupada had felt a profound ecstasy that had spread to Harikesh and all the devotees present. Everyone was keenly aware that what they were experiencing was transcendental, a special reciprocation with Srila Prabhupada. And as long as they were sincere, it will not die.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Now you just have to become better, said Harikesh, more healthy. Healthy, said Srila Prabhupada. I have nothing to do with this body. Srila Prabhupada is becoming more and more in favor of departing from the world. When Tamal Krishna remarked that Prabhupada was not drinking much, he replied that he had no inclination. The devotees with Prabhupada found it very difficult to adopt his mood of looking forward to his passing away. In their resignation, they became philosophical. Rupanuga said Prabhupada could be likened to an ambassador in a foreign country who is finally called back. Jayadvaita said that Prabhupada had taught his disciples everything and that now he was teaching them how to die. In their talks, the devotees stressed the importance of their cooperating with one another and they discussed how iskcon would continue in the future. But it was all depressing. Nevertheless, they kept returning to the unpleasant but unavoidable realization that Prabhupada would very soon leave them. With Prabhupada so clearly indicating that he had decided to definitely leave, the devotees were becoming despondent. At best, a solemn mood prevailed. Then Srila Prabhupada said they should consult Narayan Maharaj, a disciple of Prabhupada's sannyas guru, for details on how to conduct the ceremony for a departed Vaishnava. He also described where his samadhi should be located and asked that after his departure, a feast be served in all the main temples in Vrindavan, with iskcon bearing the expense. On one level, everything seemed to go on as usual. The October weather was very pleasant, the Gurukul boys were continuing with their routine, and the deity worship went on as usual. But in front of the temple, workmen began clearing a space for Prabhupada's samadhi. Despite an earlier promise to live, Srila Prabhupada said his life was still in Krishna's hands. Everything was. His free choice did not mean he was absolutely independent. Rather, the pure devotee's attitude is to freely surrender to Krishna. Whatever happens, in the mood of the gopis, the foremost devotees of Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed, you may handle me roughly in your embrace or make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. but you are always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Because the exchanges between the Lord and his pure devotees are always supremely personal, both the Lord and his devotee express desires and individual will. In his childhood Leela, Krishna sometimes breaks Mother Yashoda's butter pot, and sometimes he allows her to catch him and bind him. In any case, the will of the Lord and the will of the devotees are always one in interest, but they are sometimes expressed in the form of a loving conflict. Similarly, although Srila Prabhupada had promised his devotees that he would stay in the world and defy death, he still remained surrendered to the will of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada had already expressed his surrender in the prayer he had given his disciples to offer on his behalf. My dear Lord Krishna, if you desire, please cure Srila Prabhupada. By the phrase, if you desire, he was reminding his followers of the supreme prerogative of Krishna and was asking them to abide by it, although he was also giving them an acceptable way to petition Krishna. In a similar case in 1967, he had given his disciples another prayer. My master has not finished his work. He had said that then that Krishna had responded to this prayer, granting the wishes of the devotees. Srila Prabhupada himself was responding to the devotees' prayers, and Krishna had given him the choice. But as a surrendered soul, Srila Prabhupada waited for further developments, ever sensitive to Krishna's desire. As Prabhupada had said, when invited by Kirtanananda to come to his palace in Vrindavan, let us see which palace I am going to. We'll stop here. Thank you very much. See you in the next session, the last session.